Hello and welcome back to Aim and Practice. I'm your host, Jess Reynolds, and this is the podcast where, of course, we talk about life as a practitioner, wellness in general, and what it means to practice. Now, today I'm having a conversation with Kendall. Kendall's played a very influential role in my life. She first started out as my coach and mentor, and I genuinely believe a good reason for why I'm at where I'm at with my business today is because of Kendall. She was tremendously helpful. Now, not only is she a coach and mentor who specializes in people in the wellness industry, specifically wellness clinic owners, but she also runs a very successful wellness center herself called the Vancouver Wellness Studio. Now, last September, I had the opportunity to work with Kendall because she also hosts these things called the Wellness Center Creators Retreat. Now, last year it was this 3-day retreat where we all went to her studio in Vancouver, in the States, not Canada, and we had an opportunity to work together in this really amazing collaborative experience. It truly was, by far, the coolest workshop I've ever been to. Now, Kendall's got another one coming up this September, so in this episode, we dive deep into not only what this workshop is all about, but how did she become so dang successful in what she does. So with that, enjoy this lovely conversation with Kendall. Alright, so before we jump into today's episode, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Jane, a clinic management software and EMR. Whether you're just starting to do your research or you've been contemplating switching your software for a while now, the Jane team understands that the process, well, it can feel intimidating. That's why their goal is to provide you with all of the onboarding resources you need to make the switch as smooth as possible. Jane offers a personalized call to set up your account, a free date import, and a wide variety of online resources to get you up and running quickly. And if you need a helping hand along the way, you'll have unlimited phone, email, and chat support, which is all included with your Jane subscription. Now, I gotta tell you, I've switched EMR softwares 4 times now. We won't get into why, but I've done it. And it really can be a nightmare. But when I made the switch to Jane, I can tell you from firsthand experience, it really was the easiest transition imaginable. And I finally feel like I have a system that does all the things I need and it's all in one place. So if you're interested in learning more, book a one-on-one demo at jane.app/switch. And if you decide to switch, don't forget to use the code AIM1MO. That's AIM, the number 1, MO. At the time of sign up to receive a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Well, good morning, Kendall, and thank you. I suppose we should let everybody know this is round 3, so a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, but I'm really grateful for the time we get to chat today. For those listening, Kendall has been a really big part of my business and a tremendous help. She's been a coach for me in the past, and I'm incredibly grateful for everything that she's done for me in my business. So I'd like to start by saying thank you very much. And I would love to begin the same way that I always do, which is just learning a little bit about your background and what got you into this wonderful world of medicine that we're in.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me, Jess. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's just been such a joy to work with you over the past couple of years. Okay, journey to holistic wellness really starts for me as a young person. I had a parent growing up who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, and so I started to kind of observe at that time the experience they were having in Western medicine and how they also responded to that experience. And it started to shape some of my interests in my career. I knew I wanted to be a therapist at a really young age. And I stumbled upon the field of dance movement therapy as a senior in high school, completing, I don't know if you had one, but we had a like senior graduation project for high school. So there was a paper you had to write and a project that went along with it. And they encouraged us to do something community service based or philanthropic. And so I started researching. I had been a dancer at the time and to this day, but I had started dancing at that point. And I felt that dance had been very healing to me. And so through this process with my parent having this diagnosis. And so I started researching the healing properties of dance. And what do you know? There's a whole field of study called dance movement therapy. And it's a psychotherapeutic form of work that uses movement. So I got really excited about that and kind of set my path for my career on becoming a dance movement therapist. So fast forward, I'm in college and I am diagnosed with MS. And so I started to have my own experience with if any listeners have gone through that or have a family member who's gone through it, it's quite lengthy and detailed to be diagnosed. There's multiple factors that have to go on over time. And so um, I had that experience of feeling that my care was very disjointed in Western medicine. And I will be forever grateful, always grateful for emergency medicine and Western interventions because I need those too. And it's a big reason why I'm functioning today. But I'm like 20 years old at that point and starting to explore alternative medicine. So I had an awesome experience, started, engaging in practices like massage therapy and acupuncture and all the different things, having a great experience, getting great care, and also realized that those providers, they weren't in the same location and they weren't talking to each other about my care. So it was still exhausting as a person with chronic illness. And I already had this path set of I want to be a dance movement therapist. So I started envisioning a place that was different where people could come and receive truly holistic, collaborative healthcare. And that mental health would be a strong focus in that because I had also seen the different wellness centers that I would go to for my care. They didn't have mental health services. So it was a huge gap. And then the field of neurology, neurologists are really like the main point person for something like MS. And at that time, it's much better today, but at that time when I was being diagnosed, they didn't talk about mental health. And if they did, it was very much like, oh, I see you have some tears in the office today. Here's a prescription for antidepressant. And, and talk to anyone who's been through that, right? It's the same story. So I just felt like mental health was missing from the process and should be a huge part of that process. And so I did that. I went and got my master's in dance movement therapy and somatic counseling psychology and became a therapist. And once, there was lots that happened in between there, but when my older daughter was 1 year old, I decided it was time. My husband and I had moved back to this area. Our family is here, and we wanted to I wanted to start my practice here and start the wellness center here. And so when she was 1, I decided to go for it.
Thank you. And there are so many really interesting directions that we could go from there. There was a lot of things where I'm like, oh, I want to learn so much more about that. But I do want to keep this focused on this wellness center idea, because of course, a huge part of what you do isn't just your private practice, and it's not just the amazing wellness center that you've made, but it's helping other people create these wellness centers. So when I first experienced what you had created there, because of course you and I had been working together for a number of years, and I knew theoretically what you had created, and I followed you on social media, so I had a pretty good idea, right? Except for the fact that I had no idea until I actually got there and was able to experience what you had created with your wellness center. Um, without gushing, without going over the top, truly amazing. Like I'd never seen anything like it, between having personal training available to, like you said, mental health services, to all the usual suspects of nutrition and naturopath but so beautifully integrated. So I was completely blown away. And what I find so amazing is I believe you understand how phenomenal that is. And over the last couple of years, you started to shift more into helping other people develop and grow the same thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit, about
Sure.
this project you have, this business you have called Wellness Center Creators, and how you go about helping people who got what I call in our wellness world the dream, because so
Yeah.
many people talk
Yeah.
about this, right? But you've actually done it. So tell me a
Yes.
bit about that. How did that develop?
Yeah. So since day one of opening the center, colleagues have come to me and they want consultation. They want to know how to do it. And I had done that for years, just sort of informally. And then during the depths of the pandemic, um, so this is probably winter 2021. And I'm on Facebook, and this had happened over the years where someone would be, on a therapist Facebook group, and they would put a question about creating a multidisciplinary practice. And then I would respond and answer their question or say, hey, we can chat if you want. But this time was different. Someone posted on a big therapist Facebook group and said, has anyone started as a therapist and created a multidisciplinary center? And I said, yes, I have. Here's the website to the center. And in the next day, that one thread on Facebook had 40 to 50 comments
Mm,
of therapists saying, this is my dream. This is
mhm.
my dream. I want to do this. Somebody please help me.
Right.
And and it was it was the pandemic. There was this energy where therapists, I think they had this dream for a long time.
Mhm,
And there was something about the energy of the world at that time where people, right, were pausing and
mhm,
really reflecting on what they wanted to do and what was important to them. And so the time had come for these therapists that they were ready. And now's the time. And they had realized their communities needed wellness centers,
mhm,
and they wanted to be the ones to do it. So then one of the comments said, can you please start a group for this? Can you please start a private group? I said, sure. And whenever people ask, and you were at the coaching retreat last year, and I don't know if you were in the room for this, but someone asked, like how did you create this, or how are you maintaining this and sustaining these different things? And I always say, my answer is always, because I take action, right? The
mhm,
difference between me and the person next to me is just taking action. I'm not any smarter than the person next to me. I don't have any more business knowledge than this other therapist, right? At that time of starting my wellness center, it's just doing it and
mhm,
saying, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I did it. I started the private group, and it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And now there are thousands of people in this private group. And from there, it was really, what does this community of healthcare providers need? So then we have all different modalities joining this private group. And I'm in there answering people's questions and seeing what they need. So Wellness Center Creators started that way. And it's the power of and the positivity of the internet and being able to connect with people across the globe. And it's been just super awesome. And so, asking people what they need, and then finding a way to give that to them. So Wellness Center Creator started as virtual coaching groups, turned into individual coaching and consulting.
mhm,
And then it turned into in-person retreats, which we started last year. And now we have a small coaching team of business coaches. So it's been a really beautiful organic growth process. And I think for me, the most important part of it and enjoyable part about it for me is bringing these business owners together in community because, and for me too, to be in community with them because it's a very isolating experience trying to go at it on your own. So.
Yeah, I mean, when we were going through the retreat last year, so I was, of course, part of the facilitator group, which I'm very grateful for. Amazing experience, but also fortunate enough that I got to participate and sit through the whole thing. And I took a million notes. And I remember that moment that you described, that moment when I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, "Well, how did you do that?" And you paused for a moment, and just like you said, you went, "Well, I just did it. I took action." And such a simple moment, and it stands out as one of those moments in that workshop in my mind of like, of course, that's it. So much of this can be summarized by just to take action. But of course, for some people, maybe many people, that's ridiculously challenging to do. There's these
Yeah.
ideas, and everybody's got the dream and these ideas, so taking action can be quite difficult. So I would like to maybe discuss a little bit more about that retreat because it was such an amazing thing. Like, been through many different retreats and countless workshops, and Lord knows the hours of continuing education I have sat through. And this was
It's your
different.
life.
This is my life. It is my life. But this was different. So maybe can we talk a little bit about what last year was like? And of course, there's another one coming up this year. And let's
Yeah.
dive into this idea of what you've created, that this sense of community just in that moment, let alone the community that you built through Facebook. Yeah,
Mhm.
let's dig into to a little bit about last year and how amazing it was, and then transition into this year. So you got this Facebook group, and you got your personal coaching clients and your group coaching clients, and then so could I assume at one point in time you just sit straight, bolt up? It's 1 a.m. and you go, "I'm going to do a retreat." That's what's going to. Of course, I'm being maybe sarcastic, but what happened? How
Yeah.
did this idea
Yeah,
come to
yeah,
you?
yeah. Oh, so I had been doing, I had the, ongoing individual coaching clients, and then I had been doing a 12-week coaching, virtual coaching group, and I started doing it every season, so 4 times a year. And the coaching group was always, it was like, 8 people in the group, a very intimate cohort on purpose. And these people built the most awesome community every 4 times a year. And they're still friends to this day. They help each other. And they were all at different points in their businesses, in their wellness center journeys. And they really helped each other. And, I was also there helping guide, right?
Mhm.
So I got to a point where honestly, I think it was mostly Zoom fatigue at that point because the pandemic, I was also seeing psychotherapy clients and
Mhm.
we switched to virtual and we're doing the virtual thing. And I am such an in-person human to human,
Mhm.
you know, relational person as humans
Yeah.
are. And I'm a somatic therapist. So
Mhm.
I like to be in the room with people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I found that the virtual thing was effective and we could find a connection, but it was still different. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it really, I think, was born out of that because I got a little burnt out of doing the virtual groups because it was a lot of energy to hold that community through
Mhm.
a computer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of woke up one morning and just was like, we should do it in person. And these people are going to come from all over. So it needs to be condensed, right? It's a 3-day, 4-day, whatever. It needs to be this condensed experience, but all the same information and focuses and intentions that we, built through these coaching groups should be in this retreat. So it'd be like 3 months of group coaching in 3 days.
Mhm.
And that's how it started.
It certainly felt like that. Well, but also not. So what I mean is there was so much information, but there was not a single point in which I sat back and I was like, whoa, That was a
Right.
fire hose effect, right? And that was super
Exactly.
unique. How
Yeah.
like you said, it was genuinely like 3 months of coaching in 3 days, but no overwhelm. There was so many
Right.
little pauses and breaks and integration sessions. And how did you figure that part out? How did you
Yeah.
figure out how to balance delivering a tremendous amount of genuinely valuable and actionable information with restoration and integration?
Yeah. Well, that comes from, being a healthcare provider and going to other conferences and continuing education experiences and being so tired.
Mm,
And then getting home and actually it's not integrated because unless you'd have a follow-up or you have, that ongoing support for that information, it does feel like a fire hose. And honestly, I mean, being a person who lives with a chronic illness and chronic fatigue, my life is about how do I create things that make more sense,
mhm.
for to make it through the day and have a better experience. And so, just like with our wellness center, like nothing we do is one size fits all. Nothing I've ever done as a therapist or a coach is one size fits all. And I my approach to everything is, well, let's think about the whole person. Let's think about what the people who are coming, all these clinic owners or providers, what do they need? What are their experiences? And I know as a clinic owner that these people are burnt out. They
Mhm.
are working way too much and they're not getting enough support. So the uh the really foundational focus of the Creator Circle retreat that we're referring to from last year was to have it truly be a wellness and coaching retreat, and that those
Mhm.
things were blended. And the what made that possible is that to host the retreat at our wellness center, and our second location is a spa and it's connected to a hotel. And so that was a huge part of it too, was that, well, we actually have this physical space, and that was kind of came from the virtual groups. Every cohort, of course, they would want a tour of the center.
Mhm.
They would, and I would walk around with my computer and give them a tour.
Of course, yeah.
And explain, like, they want to know, how did you do the ceiling fabric?
Mhm.
Why did you choose those colors? Let's talk about the design. Let's talk about how these rooms function together. So it kind of came from that of, well, what if we did that in real time with,
Mhm.
everyone here? So um, we're able to use, we physically have the locations and the providers here. And I wanted the group to see, like, how does a truly collaborative team work, and
Mhm.
how does it feel to be at a functioning wellness center in this way. So
Right.
so yeah, so that's where that came from. And as our providers here are just so passionate about what they do, and they were excited to participate in the retreat as well. And um, so, we were able to bring providers in and do group things like
Yeah.
community acupuncture or yoga. And Jess, you led an awesome, um, what was it? Was it stretching, mindfulness,
There's a
visualization?
little of all the above.
All of the things. All I know is everyone loved it, and people were asleep.
Yeah. There were a few
Um,
snores for sure.
yeah.
That's the mark of success in my books.
Yeah. So, we really wanted to blend the group restoration together with some individual experiences. So everyone got to have a spa treatment or treatment up
Mhm.
at our clinic location, and just have some time for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that balance a lot. The do some cognitive work and some like planning and the actual coaching work, and then a pause and a break. But the sessions themselves, the coaching sessions or the presentation sessions, they were so beautifully selected and again actionable. So let's actually shift our attention into this one that's upcoming in the fall.
Yeah.
What's the plan? Who do you have coming? What are the different workshops? What's the outcome that you're aiming for?
Yeah. So we took the feedback from this past September and um kind of, we have a blend of what we've already created with some new ideas, which comes along with a blend of people who have already been to the retreat and they're coming
Hmm.
again with
Cool.
new people who haven't been.
Hmm.
So some of the feedback was that people wanted it to be another day. So we
Hmm.
did 3 days for the retreat. So this coming September, it will be a 4-day retreat. And I mean, that's a commitment. It's an experience, right?
Hmm.
It's taking a week off of work and coming to this experience. So, but I agreed, when we got done with the third day last year, I took a deep breath and I just felt like, wow, I just want to do this all the time. First of all, it was so fun and energizing and just really, uh, you know, you can plan it in your mind and think, okay, all these pieces need to come together. But the facilitator team, which Jess was part of, really showed up. And these sessions were, like you said, they were just really well done.
Hmm.
Um, and the flow worked really well for people to be able to integrate. Um, but we got done and I felt like, yeah, I could do this. I could do another day, or this group probably needs a whole day of that leadership category piece. Some of it was scratching the surface of some of these, kind of categories that are farther along in business. Because we had quite a few people who were starting out, or, they had group practices in one modality, but they're trying to add the other modalities. So the point being, the retreat is curated to the people who are coming.
Hmm.
So this next year, we will have a blend of people who are starting out and people who are farther along. And so with that, we will be able to create a structure within the retreat where we'll have some kind of different levels of breakout sessions or different focuses. And then we will
Hmm.
have large group experiences, but then some of that more private coaching experiences. So we will absolutely still have the group wellness and restoration, individual restorative time. Um, but it's a very intentional process. So once someone registers, they fill out a pretty comprehensive intake form, and the facilitator team reviews those in detail so that we can um, create those workshops that the people attending actually need.
Cool. So it's very much based on who's coming. And that is
Yes.
actually something that I didn't know overtly. Like I didn't understand that was part of the creation process, but was marveling at it, um, witnessing how there were people who had yet to create a wellness center. It was just a distant dream for some. And then there were other people who were decades in, and
Yeah.
this huge variety of people from all different and modalities too. I found that fascinating that it was again a wide range of modalities, and seemingly it seemed to fit everybody. Everybody seemed to come away with. I mean, at the end of every day, we had those. What was the moment of today, and everybody had something incredibly potent. So
Yeah.
well done on figuring out that balance.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what are the themes, or maybe a better way, because I'm mindful of the time, so I want to kind of
Yeah.
get to the golden nugget is what would be the ideal takeaway? When somebody comes to this retreat in September and they go through the 4 days of amazing and they come out the other side. Of course, everybody's at a different stage, so I know we can't say this is one we'll be able to do. But what's the sort of general goal of the outcome of the retreat?
Yeah. What we saw mostly from the attendees last year in their feedback was greater confidence in
Mm-hmm.
taking action and tangible tools. They felt like, oh, I actually know what to do next. And a huge part of that is actually the workbook that we created for the retreat. And it's really kind of from scratch of starting your wellness business as a solo provider, group practice, multidisciplinary team. all the way, all the categories of marketing and money and
Mm-hmm.
hiring and all the things, all the way through scaling and multiple locations. And we will have an updated version of the workbook this September. So I think the workbook really helped bring it together for the group, and it's something that they could take with them to refer back to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the consensus and what I had really hoped people would get out of it is to feel like they could do it because they can.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them were farther along than they realized, or they knew more than they realized. And I think there's a common misconception in our field that, that all the modalities are so different. And like you were saying, we had all these different modalities in the room, but it worked. And it, even with people at different kind of phases of their business, everyone was still getting something out of these workshops. And the reason is because we have so much more in common as healthcare providers from these different modalities than we realize. And I think the person starting the center gets often stuck on, well, I don't know anything about acupuncturists. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. I mean, you should get to know an acupuncturist, right? And you should get to know how they work, but it's also doesn't have to be so scary,
Yeah.
just because you are a different modality. So, um, yeah, I think the confidence piece was big for people, and just having those tools and to feel, I mean, a huge impact of an experience like that is feeling less alone in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that you now have 20 other people who are your new friends that and colleagues from across, Canada. I mean, we had people from across the US and Canada at the
Mm-hmm.
retreat from all over. And so, you know, I just love that someone from, you know, Vancouver, BC can now be chatting regularly with someone from New York City, and that they're helping each other,
Yeah.
with their wellness centers, and they're building, different formations of it, but they're really impacting their communities in this way. So I think that's really the biggest takeaway from the retreat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's what I felt after the last one. So now I'm imagining there's somebody listening right now, and they're let's go with an individual who is just beginning this journey into creating the wellness center. And they're like, this whole thing sounds really good. I'd like to go to the retreat. But they're kind of on the fence, right?
Yeah.
What are some actions that a person could take before sort of jumping in? If they're kind of like not too sure, is this something for me? Is it not? What could they do to investigate further if going to a retreat like this is something that's right for them at their stage in their career?
Yeah. Well, first I would just say, don't let the cost be the final barrier for
Mm-hmm.
you. Because sometimes when you see the full number for a retreat like this, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
But if you really, if you break it down and think about it, it truly is 3 months of coaching of information.
Yeah.
But it also includes, it's not just the coaching experience. It includes the hotel, it includes breakfast, there's a group reception, there's spa treatments, there's a lot that encompasses, and it sort of covers everything aside from flights. Flights are going to be separate from that
Mm-hmm.
cost. But I think sometimes, especially if it's a solo provider or a person who's never been to something like this, that when they see the price, it kind of feels like, oh, well, that I
Yeah.
cannot afford that.
Yeah.
But I challenge that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I have been known, and I mean, we're openly offering payment plans, but I've also been known to, create some custom payment plans in the back end, extend those for people who need them.
Mm-hmm.
I just want people to get the experience. And
Yeah.
so if you think about what you might invest in individual coaching over a period of time, it's just condensed into 4 days instead. And so thinking about it that way from the cost perspective, but other things to do to figure out if it's really a fit for you, or if you feel like it's going to be of value, I've done this multiple times with people who came last year, is just hop on a quick call, or I'll hop
Mhm.
on Zoom with you and answer your questions about it, first of all. But also, the people who came last year are more than happy to chat
Mm.
with anyone who's thinking about it and share their experience.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And of course, I'll make sure to put any of that contact information if people do want to reach out. It'll be in the show notes. So I've got two more questions
Yeah.
for you. First off, is there anything else that you would like to add? That I mean, because of course we could talk for hours about this, and I would love to do so. But being mindful of time, is there anything else you'd like to add about the retreat or whatever else you've got going on?
The other thing I want people to know is that we will have one scholarship opportunity for the
Mm,
retreat, and I'm partnering with Jane App to offer that scholarship. So that will actually be coming out today or tomorrow. I don't know when this podcast will air, but it will have the scholarship will already have come out. But you can apply for the scholarship through April 15th, I believe.
okay.
And the grand prize winner will receive a spot at the retreat.
Cool. Cool. That is such an amazing thing. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's go into the last question, which is the same question I ask virtually everybody in this
Let's hear
ongoing
it.
curiosity, which, interestingly enough, the answers to this question strongly influence the workshop I do at the retreat. So the question is, in your opinion, what do you think makes a practitioner successful?
Hmm. So I think the number one thing that makes a practitioner successful or a business owner successful um, is living and working in alignment with themselves
Mhm.
and what they value, um, and at the end of the day, being able to come home and truly feel, yeah, this is what feels in alignment for me and
Mhm.
my life and my purpose, and I'm doing that, and I did that you know um and I think that's across the board. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter, whether it's parenting or whether it's starting a company or caring for your clients as a provider. Are you living and working in the way that is in alignment for you, and why are you doing that?
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you for taking the time. I'm really, really excited about the retreat in September. I think there's going to be a lot of pretty big shifts in transformation if it's anything like last year, which I know it'll be that and so much more. So once again, thank you so much for your time, Kendall.
Thanks so much for having me, Jess. It was a pleasure.